Alrighty, I think we don't want to leave this too long for those people that have actually managed to join us. So thank you all and welcome to our webinar on the current state of cybersecurity in Australia. This is a topic that's actually very close to my heart because we're seeing an ever increasing number of breaches and compromise happening, and we all do need to be extra vigilant online. So to help guide us through this minefield today, we have a couple of speakers from one of our major vendors, Kaseya, and we're also joined by our account manager, hi Benji, who's joining us here as well. But Paul Barger will start by going through some of the threats that we're facing today and give you an idea of the landscape, the cybercrime landscape out there. And then in the second half of this session, Ali Hayder will be taking over to show you how you can confirm that you're safe by performing some real world tests on your networks, something a bit different. So hopefully we'll all enjoy this and get a bit of something out of it. So I think you've all heard enough from me over the years. So let's start. Without further ado, I'll hand the reins over to Paul. Good luck, Paul.
Thanks. Excellent. Look, thank you, Rob and the IQPC team for inviting myself and Ali along here. We're super excited to be supporting one of our favourite partners in the marketplace today. Look, it's my job to sort of take you through a 15-minute presentation about cybercrime in Australia. I have been in the industry for some time. Unfortunately, the technology to actually make me look younger wasn't available today. So you can probably tell by my haggard looks that I've been in the industry quite a long time. You can probably detect a slight English accent as well. I started my career at Microsoft in the early 1990s. Just before Microsoft made the clever decision of bringing those disparate applications of Word and Excel and PowerPoint together into a package, a platform called Office, which I know that some of us have maybe used before. I was there when they tried to start to sort of delve into trying to help customers use their products better with things like wizards, which would sort of step you through a process of fairly complex steps to help you do simple things like mail merges. I was also there when Microsoft bought out that ridiculous clippy icon that gave you help when you probably didn't need it on a regular basis. I've been over in Australia now for 20 years, working with some great organizations, but for the last 5 years, I've been working in cybersecurity. And it's given me a real overview of the current climate, what the cyber criminals are using to basically compromise us as individuals and as companies. So it's been a real wake-up call for me, and my job now is to go around and evangelize about the cyber sort of crime, not only in Australia, but New Zealand and APAC as well. So let's kick off the presentation. We were talking about what threats sort of used to disrupt business operations. And I've been in Australia for some time. You all live here. You know, we've experienced the unbelievable sort of weather conditions that we experience here, and disasters such as fires, floods, lightning strikes. I understand in Perth that you've had hailstorms and things. Those used to be the real problems that IT people had in protecting themselves in, that we had natural disasters that we needed to protect ourselves against. So our data was safe and our systems were up and running. But the risks have changed. So yesterday, as I said, natural disasters were our major worry. That person going into the office and accidentally deleting something he shouldn't, hardware failure, servers going down, etc. But today we've moved into a world where, we're very aware of ransomware. We've seen our SaaS providers like Microsoft and Salesforce.com and Google all be vulnerable to attacks. We've got malicious users out there, and I'll come on to how the cyber criminals have changed over the last few years. But we've also got stricter regulations, and I'll touch on that as well. You know, the governments of the world now can no longer let us continue to be as vulnerable as we are, and we're seeing more and more regulations and frameworks coming out to help us protect ourselves against threats. And we've also got, you know, cyber insurance, which is huge in other parts of the world. In Australia, not so much. And I'll touch on some cyber insurance stories and information as well. But I've been back to the UK and I've just come back from the US. And when I say I'm living in Australia, everybody goes, my God, we've heard you guys are really sort of hit quite bad by attacks. And it's true to say that, you know, some of our big enterprise customers over the recent years have been attacked. You know, we've seen the Medibank breach, we've seen Optus, we've seen Latitude, we've seen sort of local large education establishments be vulnerable in attack. And, you know, in Australia, unfortunately, they reckon that about 50% of the nation's credentials have actually been breached and potentially been up onto the what's called the dark web, and I'll come on to that. But, you know, you look at the icon in the middle, and we see that sort of hooded boy that, you know, I guess in the last few years, that's how we've looked at cyber criminals, that sort of lone wolf, maybe in his mother's basement, sort of going out being malicious and doing ransomware attacks and phishing attacks. But unfortunately, that's no longer the case. These cyber criminals are now working as enterprise organizations. They've got R&D, they've got marketing, they've got sales teams, they've even got support. There's you know, if you do get breached by ransomware, there's a lovely person that will phone you up and take you step by step through how to actually set up a crypto account so you can actually pay for that ransomware. So these organizations are clever, they're targeted, they're going after where the money is. And unfortunately, if we look at the next slide, it's no longer the enterprises that are being attacked. Small businesses are the major focus for cyber criminals. If we look at these horrendous sort of statistics, you know, 73% of all attacks are aimed at small to medium-sized businesses. 60%, and this is probably the worst statistic, 60% of businesses close permanently following a ransomware attack. That's a worldwide stat, and unfortunately, that's borne out to be quite true across most countries in the world. So we as business owners, we as small to medium-sized business owners, can no longer shy away from the fact that we need protection, that it won't happen to us. It's an enterprise problem. It very much is now a small business problem. And why is that? Well, you know, small businesses have limited resources. We don't have the expertise and we don't have the manpower to protect ourselves against these cyber attacks. You know, having a secure cyber position can be quite complex, can be quite time-saving. Small businesses don't have that resources. Cyber awareness as well, and thank you all for joining this sort of this session today. You're becoming aware if you weren't already aware. But, you know, cyber awareness in small business is still, you know, it surprises me how many of the audiences that I present to don't know half of what I'm presenting. And of course, you've got weaker defenses because you can't maybe afford the sort of the enterprise grade security. And you've got valuable data as well. You've got a lot of customer data. You've got a lot of financial data, some of you. You know, so they know that you are a great target. They know that you're, you know, potentially, if you don't pay that ransomware attack, you potentially will go out of business because you as organizations like us live day by day with IT and we can't do without it. So they know that if they compromise us with, you know, locking up our systems and taking our data, then that's a dangerous area. So how does this happen? Well, unfortunately, it's us. It's 90% of all cybersecurity breaches are basically starts with individual failure. And if we look at some of those individual failures, this always makes me laugh. This is the future King of England. He's a member of the Royal Air Force, and he does a blog on a regular basis. And you see him sitting back there having a great chat with his colleagues who look equally as laid back. But unfortunately, nobody looked at where that red box is, which actually has the username and password of the top secret systems that those guys are using. Fortunately, they cottoned on to this within a few hours of it coming out. But it gives you an idea that we as the sort of employees and the owners of these organizations are very lax with our understanding of what we should do as individuals to protect ourselves. If we look at, the planning side of things, very few organizations have a plan as to what they do should they be breached. Who should they contact? Who are the major people that they should contact to notify of a breach, but also who are the people that can help them in case a breach happens. And obviously, if you're working with somebody like IQPC, you've got somebody that you can contact, but you need a plan should that horrible ransomware note appear up on your screen. Poor password hygiene is, and I think we can all hold our hands up high when we sort of reuse the same password over and over again. When we have to update it, we'll probably add another numeral to it. If we want to make it really secure, we sort of think that putting an exclamation mark will do the job. We have so many passwords. Fortunately, passwords are potentially sort of going away. We're having passkeys more and more. But passwords and weak passwords are still a very easy way for the cyber criminals to get into your systems. But here's probably the number one thing is those phishing attacks. And in the good old days when phishing attacks first started, you get an email that was badly written English with some dubious links and some dubious sort of sender details, and it was fairly easy for you to identify those phishing attacks. Now, with AI coming on board and ChatGPT, we've seen a 1,036% uplift in the amount of phishing campaigns that go out, and they're no longer badly written. They are unbelievably clever. You can see up on the screen here, which one is the legitimate one and which isn't. And when you click on these clicks, they go through to another sort of page that again looks identical to let's say a DHL system. So they're becoming more and more difficult for us to identify. So as I said, ChatGPT, I use ChatGPT all the time. It's marvelous. But on the dark side of the web, there's ghost ChatGPT, which basically criminals use to write malicious code, to create phishing attacks, to find also credentials out there that they will find useful. So if they're targeting Western Australia, and they're focusing on medical practices or financial institutions, they can basically strip out and pay for dark web credentials that are up there for the highest bidder. And they're not expensive, which is sort of the frightening thing. So phishing attacks, absolutely. One great way of combating against phishing attacks is to make sure that your staff are trained on a regular basis. And we at Kaseya are trained. My first week at Kaseya, I got a lovely email saying, "Welcome, Paul Barge. We're really pleased to see you. Here's your details of your bonus package that you get from Kaseya." I duly clicked on it, and I was then on a training course for the next 3 weeks, telling me why I shouldn't have clicked on it and how to identify those phishing campaigns. So training, I know that IQPC can offer that sort of bespoke training. absolutely crucial for you to make sure that all your employees are properly trained up, because it only takes one person to click on a malicious click, and it could be, well, sort of a downhill race from there. So we look at the most impersonated brands. Yeah, they're the regular ones that we get. You know, the link one, again, I'm highlighting my ineptness with cybersecurity, but I clicked on the link one saying I needed to update my details, otherwise I would start to be fined going on the motorways. I duly clicked that. Next minute I knew I had 10 laptops purchased in Parramatta under my name. So this was before I got it seriously into cybersecurity. So, and also there were also mitigating circumstances in that, which I can explain later, should I be asked. But it's phishing campaign. We're seeing more and more what's called BEC, business email compromise. That's where your emails are compromised and people send out emails as if they were you. They also compromise email to actually, it's called thread hacking. They'll compromise your email credentials, and they'll sit looking at your emails. And if you're an estate agent, for example, they'll wait until there's a transaction that occurs. They'll jump in after the transaction details have been put out, say, oh, sorry, slight mistake on this account. This is the true account details. And again, it's fooled everybody in those account details of the transaction of the funds for the house has potentially been sent to an account that wasn't meant to be. So, you know, if you go up onto the dark web, and I suggest you don't, but if you do go on the dark web, you can buy people's credentials and passwords for as little as $40. So, you know, I know that IQPC do dark web scanning. This is a wonderful thing where they can actually scan for your company's credentials out there on the internet. It's a great thing, and I guarantee that most organizations have compromised credentials. I'm getting the 5 minutes remark. Thank you very much for that, Rob. Cyber criminals are using AI in a much cleverer way. I don't know, I'm not a big TikTok user, but on TikTok, this was quite a sensation. We had Tom Cruise being completely deep-faked and completely fooling everybody that the deep-fake version of Tom Cruise was actually Tom Cruise. This actually sort of goes into a horrible situation where one person in an organization was invited along to a Teams meeting. His chief financial officer, his face was deep-faked. He ran the meeting, convinced the person to actually transfer $25 million to an account. So we're moving into a completely scary new world that cyber criminals are becoming just so much more adept, and that's, you know, why we need help on this. You know, governments are stepping in. They're making regulations. They're doing, at the moment, they're collecting data, really, but there's going to be more regulations that are coming down the road that are going to make us all more responsible for our cybersecurity posture. Essential 8 is a wonderful framework. It's obviously created by the Australian government. It's used by a lot of countries. They think this is a great one. And again, I know that IQPC can work with you to actually come up to levels of cyber resilience against the Essential 8. Now I'm going to finish, and I promise you, Rob, it's the last minute, on the sort of, I guess, the three little pigs' houses. This is where we sort of relate cybersecurity to a house. And as you can see, the first house is a wonderful house. It's lovely, looks great. But in cybersecurity terms, it might have a bit of antivirus and it might do a few backups of data. But if I'm a cyber criminal, I'll skip up that front path. I'll kick down the door or smash a window and I'm in. Now, the next house is a lot uglier, but an organization has put in the effort to actually try and make themselves more cyber secure. They've probably got some endpoint detection. They've got backup on a regular basis. They've got some more cybersecurity tools in there. But again, if I'm a cyber criminal and I want to get into this house, I've got the tools and I've got the time. I will eventually break into this house. Now, the third house is the house that IQPC can actually build for you. And this is a house which is being constantly monitored, which has got human beings looking at your systems, updating them. We're coming on to pen testing in a minute. They're doing pen testing to make sure that everything is secure. This is the house that IQPC can actually build for you. And, you know, I know that Rob's got some offers later on and hopefully some more discussions with you, but that's the end of my presentation. I guess I leave you with try and please make yourself as secure as this house, because the cyber criminals are only going to get smarter and cleverer and more persistent. You think the eyes won't be touching, you know, organisations in Perth and rural Perth. Unfortunately, they will be. So with that, I will pass you over to my good colleague Ali to take you through the next set of the presentation. But thank you very much for your time.
Hey, gee, thanks, Paul, for that. There's some great insights there. And are we all scared? Yeah, you probably should be. It is a pretty dangerous place out there. But look, there are some pretty basic things that can be put in place to make sure things are safe. But once you think you are safe, then you may be looking at something that Ali's going to be talking about. So, Ali, yeah, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your time. Now, when it comes to cybersecurity, penetration testing is a great way to check the efficacy of your security controls and everything that you have put together to secure yourself from cyber attacks. You probably noticed with the slides just turn or switch to a dark theme. That's because we're stepping into the dark side of cybersecurity, and that's where we're going to talk about network penetration testing. So first of all, let's set up the agenda for the presentation, right? So network penetration testing, we'll talk about what's the importance of it for SMBs and how it's different from vulnerability scanning, right? How you can really not just think like a threat actor or a hacker, but actually perform the same steps they will perform to try to get access to your company's valuable resources. That's where penetration testing comes into play. We're going to talk about how with cyber threat growing fast and traditional penetration testing is expensive and infrequent, how automated network penetration testing offers a much smarter, more affordable way for SMBs like you to stay secure throughout the year. And it's no longer just for any prices, right? This is now the standard for more proactive continuous protection. So what is penetration testing? A hacker targets an organization by attacking vulnerabilities on the organization's network. Now, they would either do that by targeting the external facing IPs, like external doors, or they would just try to gain access through the internal network through physical access, or as Paul mentioned, through a phishing attack, right? Where they will lure employee trying to gain leak credentials, and that will be the foothold for an attacker to get access to the environment. Now, from that moment, the attacker will try to gain access and will with the intention of gaining access to sensitive data. What they would do with that data, as we know, they will hold it for ransom or to sell it on the black market. So our network penetration test is going to do the exact same thing. The attacker, right? So except for doing profiting from the sensitive data, we will provide you a detailed report that will identify all the weaknesses and we'll show you how to fix those issues before the bad guys do, right? So as you can see, it makes penetration testing the best way to stay ahead of the attackers and be more proactive. Now, as I go through the presentation, I'm going to talk about some of the common concerns that you may have or questions you may have at the end. We'll try to cover the most known questions or concerns. Like, for example, there's a lot of noise in the market related to automated penetration testing and vulnerability scanning. So it's common for the industry to confuse the two because it's quite unfortunate because vulnerability scanning alone is not enough to assess your security from a hacker. So let's talk about how it's different. A vulnerability scan is more of a passive scan, more like a hygiene check that you want to do almost every day, that identifies all the known vulnerabilities. The keyword is the known vulnerabilities on the network. And then it provides you the priority rankings and remediation guidance on how to act on those issues, how to action them. Now, in the world out there, there are more than 200,000 or probably more than 300,000 known vulnerabilities that you're checking against on your network on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. Now, the organizations will work with their IT providers, in your case, IQPC, to prioritize these issues based on criticality rankings. Now, out of those 300,000 vulnerabilities, less than 5% of those have a known exploit. So a penetration test doesn't scan just for known vulnerabilities. Instead, it's a more active attack to try to exploit the vulnerabilities and weaknesses on the network. Now, this will allow you to prioritize remediation based on what's actually exploitable, right? So the pen test will have far fewer issues that needs to be addressed, making it much easier for all the team involved to complete the remediation process. So as I said, penetration testing goes way beyond vulnerability scanning to simulate a real world attack to find exploitable vulnerabilities before the hackers do. And pen testing is also a great way to test the security controls. It's more of a stress test on the security controls you put together, giving it a lot of resources and efforts, making sure they're working as designed. And you need to test these controls on a more regular basis rather than just do it once a year. Now, finally, another great point why pen testing is definitely needed is it identifies weaknesses that are not even tied to a vulnerability found by a vulnerability scanner. Meaning, we have recorded issues over 300,000. They're attached. They've been given a code, a CVE code, and the criticality is measured by CVSS scores, like a scoring system, and how important or critical it is to fix those issues. But hackers are not only looking at those known issues, but also the weak issues or unknown issues, like a weak password. There's no CVE attached to it for you to cross-reference, but a penetration test can easily call it out and use it to get access to company sensitive data. To put it into perspective, it's not the highest CVE score, as you can see here, that poses the greatest risk, but a lower severity vulnerability, like the 5.3 you could see, that you should prioritize because it led the attacker to gain access to the company's intellectual property. So you can really focus on these issues. So now we know what penetration testing is. Let's talk about why do you need it. So we all sort of covered this already. And of course, Paul talked about how there are limited resources, but unlimited threats out there, right? And majority of the teams, no matter it's on internal team and your IT provider, IQPC, they're all stressed thin. They have limited resources. They got to balance IT, operation, and security, compliance, all of that with limited resources. And just to kind of echo what Paul mentioned, there are about 61% of the cyber attacks, they're targeting small, medium-sized businesses, and about 60%, exactly matching what Paul statistics were back then, is 60% of these SMBs had to suspend their operation, which is not good for any sort of business, right? And this shows that SMBs not only a target, but they're often not even prepared for the attack. In addition, we're at a time where breaches are at an all-time high, and it continues to increase year after year. That puts any IT team under immense pressure to protect their data, their customers' data, despite limited manpower and budget, because as you can see here, one misconfiguration, one mispatch, one overlooked vulnerability, that's all it takes for an attacker to breach the network. So unless we do something to identify these weaknesses on a more proactive basis, it's only a matter of time until an attacker does. And as we mentioned earlier, you probably already implemented some security controls like firewalls, EDR, SOC. It's good to react to an attack, but penetration testing is more a proactive approach that was never available because of the factors involved with manual testing, which I'll cover, but how automation is helping you to do more proactive testing on a regular basis without breaking the bank. Now, let's talk about the current need for network pen testing, how you can address it better than your peers. Now, currently, penetration testing is a compliance-driven solution, meaning something companies do once a year if their regulators or cyber insurers require it. Now, VPen will check that box for you anytime, regardless of the compliance or insurance demanding for a network pen test. But we're basically helping you to go beyond the scope of a compliance for pen testing, but actually look at it from a security perspective, which I'll cover. So once a year test is not enough, from a security perspective, because new issues, new critical vulnerabilities appear weekly now, and every network change introduces potential risk. So there are going to be a lot of network changes throughout the year. So you cannot really rely on a snapshot of the environment, which is a one-time annual manual pen test. Now, by the time you get to your results, unfortunately, new threats could already exist. So to truly reduce the risk, pen testing should happen monthly, not annually. And compliance actually requires more than one pen testing as well. When you make a significant change in the network, most networks have significant changes throughout the year, as I mentioned, so it will open up security risks, but would actually require additional pen testing. So let's talk about if we understood like what pen testing is, how it's important to the SMBs, but why not everyone is doing more penetration testing? The answer is pretty straightforward. It's the cost. It's super expensive. Now, manual pen testing could cost somewhere between $5,000 to $20,000, $50,000, as well as $100,000 as well, depending on the environment and how complex that is. And SMBs are not really willing to pay that much money for just a one-off pen test, unless they're required to do so. The solution to that problem is automation. Now, through automation, we can solve all of the problems for manual testing, which means you can now run monthly penetration tests for less than a cost of one traditional annual pen test, turning pen testing into a security tool, not just for compliance checkbox. And we've done that with vPen tests. Now, we have fully automated network penetration testing, allowing you to perform ongoing penetration tests at a fraction of the one-time manual pen test cost. Our platform does everything a manual penetration tester would do. We perform exploits like simulate man-in-the-middle, cracking password hashes, escalating privileges, try to laterally move within the network once we get a foothold, like get access to a credential. We'll try to utilize it and try to, laterally move within the network to gain access to sensitive data and present that in the report so you can action those items. And we built all of those expertise into this platform. All you got to do is simply log in, choose the assessment type, and schedule the penetration test working with IQPC. You can track the assessments alongside IQPC in real time. So in traditional world, you have to wait for the pen tester to finish testing, which takes them on an average of 3 to 4 weeks to really understand what was identified and how to action them. But with vPen tests being automated, you have a live real-time understanding of the issues, what impact it has on the environment, and how to fix those issues. So you can work with the IQPC team to remediate those issues right then and there. From a value standpoint, it is obviously important to address the compliance with the cyber insurance requirement. You can be confident that vPen test will report and vPen test reports will meet any compliance or cyber insurance requirement for a network pen test. And by leveraging vPen tests, IQPC will deliver an independent penetration test from Vonahi. They will basically work with you to gather all the requirements like frequency, the time, and the targets, and the platform will help deliver an independent penetration test. Now, the reason why penetration test is a compliance requirement is it is the most effective way to test the network and to stay ahead of the attackers. The only reason they don't require more often is because they know organization cannot afford it, because manual pen testing is expensive, and doing it on a monthly basis for that price tag is going to be super expensive. So no other company can provide security. They can only offer compliance, but you get both with vPen test. The next part of the discussion is to discuss how any of you may have objections around, you cannot really automate a manual pen test, or you can't deliver the same results. So that is simply not the case. In fact, our pen test will deliver the same, if not better, than most manual pen testers. These are 3 reasons for that, related to our built-in expertise, our methodology, and our thoroughness. As far as expertise goes, our founder have more than 13 years of experience delivering manual testing. And we have a penetration testing team that adds up the expertise. With combined experience, we got over 30 years of combined penetration testing experience, over 13 industry certifications. The second aspect is our methodology. Now, our pen test team reviews the results of our automated tests. Now, they make sure there is nothing new on the network that we haven't written automation for. If there is, they will perform manual testing and then write automation for it going forward. Now, this check will ensure that we will never deliver a report that doesn't meet our pen test team standards. Finally, thoroughness. Now, manual pen testing are limited by time, which means they are often have to pick and choose the most likely attack path. leaving others untested. Because of automation, we can test every single attack path every time, ensuring we don't create a false sense of security for you, right? So it is safe to say that when you are getting the same results with Vonahi, and if not better, than other manual pen testing. For your peace of mind, you're also getting a high quality solution. So there is some market validation we could talk about. As I kind of touched on the certifications, our hackers have almost every industry certification available for penetration testing and offensive security. We have more than 3,000 partners working on our mission to deliver automated frequent penetration testing without breaking the bank. We deliver over 60,000 pen tests across the globe to over 25,000 clients. And what you can resonate with in the region is Vonahi is now CREST accredited in the Australasia region, which means the Council for Registered Ethical Security Testers, which who basically set the gold standard, or you could call it enterprise grade penetration testing standards across all the vectors like legal, ethical, technical standards. We are the first automated solution that were recognized by CREST, and we're now a CREST member. So it will help you get the validation that you're getting an enterprise grade level penetration testing. We're also the #1 rated pen test company of Gartner Peer Insight. We're the market leader on G2 for network pen testing. We have over 170 reviews on G2 and are defined by the market leader in 19 categories. So these are just the point of these slides is that you are receiving the best in class pen testing, a statement that is supported by Gartner, G2, and CREST. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation and I'll hand it over to Rob and the team and open up for any questions.
Better get my mic unmuted. That's fantastic. Thanks, Ali. What a great service that one is. We actually took advantage of this ourselves recently. We did a pen test on our own environment because you got to walk the walk, and found just a couple of potential issues. Nothing scary, but definitely potential issues in there that we patched up quickly, and proven to us that we'd patched them up successfully by the next test. So they continue to happen just to make sure that we are staying secure, because anything could happen tomorrow that makes the pen test that you've just done invalid. So look, it's something that a lot of you probably haven't heard of before, or at least not been exposed to. So it's really good to hear a bit of that insight from Ali there, and just hear about how we can actually make absolutely certain that we are secure, regardless of all the other things we put in place. This is real world testing, just to make sure that you are actually safe. So hey, look, we've got a few minutes left for questions. So if you are familiar with the chat concept of Teams, if you're not, you can just hit the little chat button up the top of your Teams window and the chat will pop up on the right. Drop your questions in the chat here, and we'll ask the experts while we have them on board, if anyone's got anything.